Welcome to Talking Cards, the Consumer Reports podcast that helps you shop smarter, save more, and feel good about every purchase. I'm Tanya Christian.
And I'm Brian Vines.
And this is Talking Cards. The way you choose to wear your hair is both outwardly expressive and deeply personal. Be it long, short, kinky, curly, locked, waved, weaved, a bob, or bust down, hair can be an extension of your personality, becoming a signature, hello Sade slick back braid, or a blank canvas that you get to change up every week, playing with color, texture, and length. We see you, Kiki and Riri.
Yes, we certainly do. And while it's a woman's prerogative to change her mind and her hair and her mind about her hair, they should never have to choose between personal care and their health. For Black women in particular, that choice can be even more fraught, as evidenced by a groundbreaking Consumer Reports investigation from February of 2025 that tested products marketed to and widely used by Black women and children, and detected the presence of toxic chemicals in synthetic braiding hair.
Yeah, now, Brian, if you remember, CR tested 2 samples each of 10 popular synthetic hair brands for heavy metals, including arsenic, cadmium, and lead. Carcinogens were found in every one of those samples. We're talking Magic Finger, Sassy Collection, Sensational, Shake and Go, and others. So a year later, we are back with a new round of tests, looking at human hair and braiding hair brands presented as safer alternatives. And Brian, I'll just say, there's not a lot to celebrate from the new round of testing. We'll get into those results when we're joined by Ginger Coles, CR's managing editor for Home and Trends, and director and head of product safety testing for Consumer Reports, Dr. James Rogers.
Yeah, I remember when we first released this, and a lot of people were talking on every platform about it, sharing their experience as well as their fear, really, about moving forward with getting your hair braided.
No, it was everywhere. And I think people were concerned and they wanted safer alternatives.
We learned so much, but there were so many questions that came out of it. So we're back for the testing 2.0, looking at more things and expanding our view. And we're always trying to get that knowledge base. So I hear you're about to extend my knowledge base a little bit more when it comes to synthetic braiding hair.
Yes. So, Brian, Talking Cards, we love a game. This game is called Braid or Build. Okay. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to name an ingredient or material, Brian, and you're going to tell me, is it commonly found in synthetic braiding hair or in building materials?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm so game, but I want to state at the outset how patently horrible this is that there's even a question of whether this is the stuff that's holding my house together or braided into my scalp. But I'm game. Let's go.
And not to give too much away, sometimes there's overlap. Just heads up. So, polyvinyl chloride, also known as PVC, is that braid or build?
Listen, I know that fake leather jacket I was rocking in grade 10 was PVC, and I'm praying that it wasn't in somebody's head. So I'm going to say builds. We build with the PVC, we wear it, but it's not in our hair.
It is in our synthetic braiding hair. Indeed it is. So PVC is used in construction, pipes, flooring, we know that, but forms of it and related plastic polymers are also found in synthetic braiding hair and coatings. Synthetic braiding hair is fundamentally engineered plastic fiber.
Okay.
How about monocrylic fiber?
The acrylics, like getting your nails did, I'm going to say that is in some hair, because I've seen some like tags on Shake and Go wigs. They're like, that's acrylic.
And you would be correct, okay? So monocrylic is a synthetic fiber commonly used in braiding hair, and it's designed to mimic the texture of human hair and is often treated to be flame resistant. So you're right about that one. Last one.
Okay.
Formaldehyde releasing resins.
Okay. Since this is Consumer Reports and they're the smartest people I know, I'm only going to assume that this is the gotcha and formaldehyde is for dead bodies and not for heads. Build.
So this is another one. It's both.
Oh, woof.
It's both. So synthetic fibers can be coated or treated during manufacturing. That's part of what can cause irritation or that itchy scalp that some people feel when they use synthetic braiding hair. So, yes, it's both.
Well, so I got an education crash course there, but I hope that there are some bright spots that we can talk about with this stuff too before people are literally pulling the hair out of their heads. So
Right.
let's get into it with Ginger and Dr. Jim. Beginning this conversation in earnest right now, we've got a long way to go. I'm happy to bring in CR's managing editor for Home and Trends, Ginger Coles, and the director and head of product safety and testing for Consumer Reports, Dr. James Rogers. Thank you both for being in the room with us to talk about this Braiding Hair 2.0 investigation.
Thank you for having us.
Ginger, this is our second look at braiding hair. I want to back everyone up to how this all started. How did these products originally get on CR's testing radar?
The short answer is we talked to the people who know the most about this product, which is Black women. We hosted several women led organizations in our headquarters in Yonkers and had several discussions, all to find out what was top of mind for Black women in terms of safety concerns. And out of those discussions, one category came to the top, which was personal care. Am I exposing myself? Am I exposing my child through toxins by using certain products? And so it's in that category, braiding hair kind of rose to the top. And as soon as it did, I knew we were onto something because as a Black woman, this is something that is really relevant in our culture. I researched it right away and everything came together really, really quickly.
Came together, it did, and the response was also swift. Before we even get into that, I want to know what was the first crop of tests like, and which products in the second round of testing were not in the first?
So, Brian, the last time we did testing, you may remember we only did 10 products. They were the top 10 sellers, but they were only made of a chemical called canecolon. And so they were all synthetic-based products, high in sales, plus a couple of them were based on the conversations that Ginger mentioned with Black women about what they used to do their braids, to do their children's braids. This time the testing was different because we were trying to ask a couple of different questions. One of the things that the women said after our report came out was that, well, are there any other products that are safer than the ones that we tested the last time? Plus, during that time, the plant-based products were becoming more popular. And there were alternative products coming on the market also. And we did not test human hair. You may be aware that human hair is considered a replacement for the artificial hair. It's more expensive, etc. But it is out there as an option. So testing products that we hadn't tested before, human hair, plant-based hair, but also testing products that may be labeled safer. So we tested a product that was supposed to be organic. We tested a product that was supposed to be rinsed with apple cider vinegar. You may remember again from the last reporting, that was one of the treatments, at-home treatments that some people do with their artificial braiding hair before they use it to reduce scalp irritation and itching and so on and so forth. And so I sent out our market analysts to find any braiding hair that had some type of label that tried to say that it was safer. So we were trying to ask a lot of questions within this one that came up during the previous testing in our conversations with Black women about, okay, well, what's next? What can we do to address these concerns about contamination in these products?
So, as Ginger told us just a moment ago, this was a first of its kind investigation. We couldn't find anything to reference. So you pioneered this testing and there was a pioneering investigation from Ginger's team. But did any of those results prepare either one of you, Ginger or Jim, for what we found this time?
I was so hopeful because the first investigation left me gutted. As a mom, I really was hoping that we would find a product that I could use that would be safe enough, that I felt like was safe enough for my 6-year-old daughter's hair. And so not being able to find something in the first investigation was really upsetting. And I was really hopeful for this one. And, you know, Jim mentioned human hair and the importance of human hair. I have so many friends, my little sister and other family members, friends Even a few of my neighbors moved immediately to human hair right after that first investigation. So everyone, I feel like, had a lot of high hopes for that category. And when we got the readouts and the results, it just wasn't what anybody wanted it to be. We wanted to be able to recommend some products, and again, that wasn't the case.
And especially because that's not even cheap. You think I'm going to go the premium route and avoid some of this synthetic stuff, and you're paying a premium for it, and those
Right.
results just bear it out.
Yeah, one thing bothers me, Brian, because I've been in regulatory science for a good chunk of my career. And what I've noticed is that industries that are not regulated tend to do whatever they want to do. And as we reported in the last story, there's really no regulation on these products, right? And we reported the story, we reached out to the FDA. We asked them, is this your product? Are you supposed to be providing oversight? And we never could get a straight answer. And so to answer your question, I was not that surprised that the products were this bad. I did not have a whole lot of confidence that we were going to find a whole lot positive. Now we did, and we can talk about some of the results later. We did find a couple of things that were at least heartening.
There were some organizations that when we did outreach to them, explained that they actually do some proprietary testing, and and stated that safety was a big concern for them because they know who is using these products and they want to make sure that they're safe. So there are some companies, to their credit, out there trying to do the right thing and manufacture cleaner products, but we've got a long ways to go.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys both mentioned testing, right? Some people are doing it, some aren't. But how did we do our testing? First batch and second batch. And was it an apples to apples comparison between last year and this year?
So we wanted to be able to compare the results from last year to this year. And so we used the same lab we used the last time. We used the same methods we used the last time. We tried to do a risk model of what we found. And so we could compare the previous to the present. That's why I chose to do exactly the same way as we did the last time. So then we can compare the two sets of results.
And we were all there last year. We know that, the reaction to our testing, to the investigation itself, it drew a lot of passionate responses. And it ranged from people immediately taking synthetic hair out of their routine and throwing their hands up. And, like you said, Ginger, some people decided, okay, no more synthetic hair. I'm going to add in human hair. But Ginger, have the results changed the way you navigate braids and protective styles? And based on the women who you're around, have they changed the attitudes and perceptions about adding hair?
There are so many reactions to this, and you just kind of went through them all, but people have very strong opinions. People are tied to braids on some level. If you wear braids, it is something that is part of your routine once a year, multiple times a year, or maybe you wear them nonstop. And people's reactions varied a whole bunch. But for me and my little familia, I told you about, like my daughter, my biggest struggle isn't really about me, but it's about her. So I'll just tell you briefly about her. She's 6.5 years old and she's got longish 4A hair. This child is, let me tell you, active with a capital A. And in addition to all her other extracurricular activities, she swims every Friday during the school year. But during summer, at summer camp, she swims daily. And as you can imagine, she's been doing that for 2 to 3 years. And as you can imagine, that takes a toll on me because it's a lot of work and a lot of maintenance. That daily battle against chlorine is a lot for me to manage. So what I do is I just do box braids on her without adding any hair, just her natural hair. And I'm able to wash her hair daily, and that lasts about a week. But that's still a lot of work for me. I have to take them down every week, give her a deep wash and a deep condition, and then redo them. But in the back of my mind, I know that if I just got her some braids with added hair, it would be a lot less work for me. Those braids will stand up to the chlorine and the daily washing and still look really pretty for quite a while. They would endure all that stuff, and it would be less work for mommy. Yay. I mean, that's what we all want. That's part of the joy and the greatness of braids, not just the cuteness, but like the convenience. But even without me knowing like what was in these braids several years ago, I never did it because I also knew the other side of the problem, which is the rashes, the itching, the burning, the pain. Like I just could not see myself making that trade-off no matter how much easier it like made my life. So I'm stuck. Like I'm washing hair every week, like on a timer. We stick with our natural curls, braid outs, twist outs, and like I said, I'll do box braids on her without adding any hair. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm doing what I feel is best for me and my little family for now. I do hope though in the future that there's a product that I could use because there are all those great benefits. It's cute and it's convenient and it's not going to cause her harm down the line.
So, Jim, Ginger just gave voice to a lot of people's thought process and rationale and their back and forth that they have. Is there something that you know as our man who's behind this really first of its kind analysis, especially when someone like Ginger might be at their like breaking point saying, this one says it's safer, it's organic, it's all of the things that you would ever want in hair that's fit to go in my beautiful child's head. Are any of these things actually safer?
So, Brian, the answer always is it depends. As I mentioned, what we try to do by the methods that we use were to try to do what's called a risk analysis. And that's why we did a quantitative or the ability to measure for these contaminants for lead, for instance. And then we take that number, the amount of lead, then we model what a person wearing braids may be exposed to over time. We admit right up front that Consumer Reports takes the most health protective measures and levels for any of these chemicals, which is probably one of the reasons people disagreed with our findings. But as I said, there are no regulations, so no one is telling us what is a safe level of lead in this product, for instance. So we had to model it, but it is a model. It is what we're projecting using mathematics and public health data. We did the best we could to try to give consumers some type of idea of what the levels were and what they meant. Like, for instance, the volatile organic compounds, the VOCs. We said in this story, other than acetone, all of them were below a harmful, what we project as a harmful level. However, our concept of safety is, even though they're at low levels, because you may have other sources of these chemicals in your life, like with lead, live in a house with lead paint, live in a country that uses lead-based gasoline, right? Lead from other food sources and water sources that you consume. So our goal is to try to keep you from accumulating so much lead from all the sources that you're in contact with, including braiding hair if you wear that, okay? And so I think that what we say is that, and we've said this in stories before, I can't tell you a product that has zero lead, right? Because they're not out there. But what I can tell you are the products that have the least amount of lead. And if you're concerned with lead in your body, pick those products that fit your concern, which in this case would be the least amount of lead. That's the best I can give you, Brian, because again, pick those products that have the lowest amount of the chemicals that you're concerned with and use those until we figure out if there's something even better than that. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
what it did was make me think of what you mentioned just a second ago, that there were a lot of responses and some talk back and people talking about the methodology the first go round. I know I personally watched one woman on YouTube say you would have to eat 5 pounds of braiding hair to approach what they were saying was was there any valid criticism that you heard the first go round from the methodology or the results in testing?
We adjusted some of the descriptions for the model this time, but we kept the level of sensitivity the same, right? So we tried to address and explain even clearer what the model was trying to model. We also acknowledged that this is probably not the only way that you're getting lead into your system via braiding hair. So it could be through the skin, could be inhalation. But we said this is the most likely model that we could model from our data for lead. One of the other criticisms they said is that, well, we only tested 2 samples per product. Well, this time we tested 3 samples per product for the chemical testing. And so we tried to adapt some of the criticisms, but we also said, if you have a better model, show us
Yeah.
the mathematics, right?
Right.
Come on and let's sit down about it. And I said it publicly a number of times. Let's bring my scientists, you bring your scientists, and let's discuss just modeling. Nothing else about the study, but did we pick the right numbers in the model? We're still here. Let's still talk about it. And I expect the same conversations may be had coming up. But I'm not sure you can excuse human hair that had like 1,600 times a safe level. I mean, even if we dropped our sensitivity down in our model, they would still violate, right?
Right.
They would
Yeah.
still violate any of the models that I'm familiar with. We stuck with what we had. And again, we're ready for the conversations if they want to have them.
Jim, let's talk about that very quickly because we tested human hair because a lot of times that's what people were saying they were going to. I want you to state very clearly what we found in testing that human hair.
So we tested 9 different models of human hair. Okay. And again, they were different brands, etc. In every case of those 9 models, they had the most lead in them that any of the other 21 samples. So the rest of it had much, much more. If you look at when you see the story, you'll see bar graphs that are so high, we had to cut the middle of them out because they extended like above the page if you would have plotted them out. And so we were asking the question, well, how could this be? One of the things we do know is that if you're exposed to lead in your environment, in the water, in the food, your body accumulates that lead, and you can detect that lead in the blood, in the hair, etc. So one of the theories we discussed is that the women where they have to make money by selling their hair, they may be exposed to more lead in the water, in the food, in the air, in their environment. And they're consuming this throughout their lifetime, and it ends up in their hair. Or, and this is another theory we talked about, maybe the hair, when it's processed, because even if it's human hair, it's being processed somehow,
Right.
chemically processed. Maybe the process is causing it to pick up lead too. The processing is proprietary information, business sensitive, so it's kind of hard to know exactly how it's processed. But those are the 2 working theories of how this amount of lead is getting into this hair. I mean, it's a lot.
The fact that those questions are open goes to a very early point that you made about the lack of regulation here, because there is no transparency, because there's no governing body entity out here asking people or making them yield to a standard. So, Ginger, who is regulating these products and what could they be doing better?
Good question. So we reached out to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and a rep there told us that some skin or personal care products, such as synthetic hair, wigs, and extensions, are considered to be cosmetics under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Okay. So they just stated that. I'm also going to tell you what they told us in 2025, which was that they suggested that other federal agencies could also have jurisdiction or oversight over this category, but they did not name what those agencies could be. So, in other words, not much of anything is happening in terms of regulation. And at last check, I looked at the FDA site just this morning. I've not seen a recall of braiding hair. I had checked it last year for the 2025 study. There's not been a recall. So there's nothing happening in that space, unfortunately.
And Brian, here's the weird thing you'll sometimes hear from manufacturers. They will say that their product is safe based on regulatory standards or whatever. And the answer always is, from me, or the question, what standards are you using? Right.
Right.
And so I think that the key is probably going to be state regulations, because especially in states that are more sensitive to health-based type of laws, we have a better chance, I believe, to getting laws passed in different states for these cosmetic products to be regulated, to be tested. I think that's the best thing we're going to do. Like in New York State, Washington State, Minnesota, California, these are states that seem to be more agreeable to to putting regulations in place.
So this is almost like the Prop 65 of it all. In California, Proposition 65, where manufacturers are required to disclose those things. So if you think about it in the broad scheme, these companies are not going to start making California hair and sending it out there and giving us the rest of the stuff that has all of these VOCs and other carcinogens or heavy metals in it. So they might lead the way. But that is like one of the CR thrusts. They're trying to get this Beauty Justice Act passed.
As we're closing out, we want to kind of end on a positive note, right? Like, we know that women, especially Black women, we're not going to stop braiding our hair. We're not going to stop wearing the human hair, the synthetic hair, whatever it is. But what are some things that people can do to mitigate the risk of wearing that hair, of using the braiding hair that we know has these heavy chemicals in them? How do we limit our exposure?
Sure. So I have 8 things, if that's okay, but they're all really easy and like doable, right? The first thing is something that Dr. Rogers mentioned earlier. Look for the braiding hair products with fewer contaminants, right? So we found one with no heavy metals, for example, the Docile Beauty Hypoallergenic Canacolon Fiber Braiding Hair. It's a long name, but that's the only one that had no heavy metals. That's an example of braiding hair that can be manufactured without detectable heavy metals. So it's possible, right? The second thing you can do is really for braiders, and that's wear gloves while braiding. This will help limit your skin exposure, and also you'll be more likely to remove your gloves before you eat, right? So you're not having that hand-to-mouth transfer. The third thing you can do is skip dipping the ends in the boiling water. Now, don't come from me. This came from one of the salon, the salon owner and hairstylist we talked to. Don't come from me, but yes, your braids might get a little frizzier a little sooner than you would like, but the trade-off is you're really limiting your exposure to those VOCs that we keep discussing that are released when the hair hits the boiling water. If you don't want to skip the dip, then make sure the room is very well ventilated. Open a window, open a door if you can. If you have an air purifier, use it during this process, right? That's going to go a long ways to help you. The fourth thing, if you can, try to shorten the amount of time that you leave the braids in. Now, how long is up to you? I get it. Like, we want to get our money's worth out of these braids because let's face it, they are not cheap, right? And so, but reducing the amount of time you have them in is also going to limit your exposure to whatever toxins are in the hair. The fifth thing you can do, extend the time, of course, between installs, just to give your body a break, right? The sixth thing, and this came from one of our experts in the article, Dr. Angela Lamb at Mount Sinai in New York City. She says, make sure your braids aren't too tight, right? She says that if absorption of these toxins is happening through the skin, any break in your skin barrier is going to increase risk. So in other words, if your braids has your eyebrows up in the perma raised position, your braids are too tight. And too tight braids means you can get micro tears or lesions in your scalp that can affect the skin barrier, which theoretically could allow the contaminants to enter your bloodstream. It's not been tested, but that's what she says. The seventh thing, let go of this idea that beauty is pain. Like, that is like instilled in us at a very young age. And we believe that we have to go through all of this pain and struggle to get to the other side of looking good and feeling great, right? Like this extremely tense burning. So, and this leads me to the final thing, number 8. We have to start reporting things to the FDA and the CPSC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Listen, if you're getting rashes and red bumps, intense itching, burning, any of those things, these are all signs that your body is being exposed to something that it does not like and is trying to send you a warning sign. Exposure to all these toxins, no matter how low the levels are, is cumulative in the body. And the more you're exposed to them, the more likely you are to experience the negative health effects. So report the adverse reactions. Don't suffer in silence, Those are the 8 tips. And I feel like they're all doable on some level. And you don't have to do all of them, but make an effort because it's important.
One of the things that really stuck with me is this idea that Black women move this industry. And if they require accountability and for companies to do better in the manufacture of these things, they will be held to account. So if we as consumers demand that excellence and accountability, it will present itself faster than any legislator can tell them to do it if you cut off the money tap.
And we know it can be done because it's done in other countries, right? So it can be done. Jim, Ginger, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great discussion. We're so happy you were able to come and speak with us on Talking Cards.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and look forward to future conversations.
Always.
To read the full investigation, you're always welcome 24 hours a day to jump online at cr.org and check out this investigation as well as the first round. And you got over 30 brands of synthetic and human hair evaluated.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Talking Cards.